full and empty. You think of it as heavy and light. I'm sinking here because my heaviness comes here, and then my lightness can express in the other side. I just want to make sure it's 100%. I just want to be really careful that I don't straighten the weighted leg to bring the empty leg off the ground. So I'm still bending this leg, at least in my mind. I feel, so sinking, still sinking. The sink, we really need to get into the outside edge. And then even if the leg isn't bending anymore, we still get a feeling of sinking because the down, the outside edge balances the up, the inside. And then just a few easy ones, just full and empty, sinking down. This could rise up if it wanted. So it's trying to get 100%. So this foot becomes so light, it wants to lift. So I have to make an effort to sort of keep it on the ground. And then just the figure of 8 around the hips, tracing the movement of the center of gravity. Still very much aware of the full and empty. So the full side tends to compress, but that means that the empty side can really open its joints. So there's a real sense of a flow of energy down the emptying leg. and then the mind with the energy. So as I bring my weight into one leg, the energy flushes down the emptying leg and then returns, and that pulls me across. The joints in the legs, I want to feel like there's a little spring inside each one. So when I remove the weight from it, each joint springs open a little bit. So they want to open, it's just my weight tends to compress them. They're both very different. And if there isn't that difference, that qualitative difference, then the energy won't really flow because the empty side will always have a little bit of fullness in it. So I want to really settle here so that this can completely expand. Now let's just try just a bit of reaching with the hand. So in a sense, it's sort of easier to feel the spirit. So I want to get a good reach. So I need to turn away from the hand, the direction I'm reaching. So I'm sort of looking over here and my hand has reached out. So imagine you're reaching in order to pick something up, some food, or picking an apple. Feel the spirit. So you'd reach, there'd be real effort in the reach. And then suddenly you become interested in retrieving, pulling the thing in towards you. So you're not just making an ignorant yank with your hand. Your spirit is changing. Your spirit is coming and meeting the thing halfway. So that's what we want to feel. It's that subtle change that makes the hand come in. It's not just a mechanical thing. I'm not just telling my body to do this piston action. The hand comes in because I'm really interested in looking at what's in it. And so I need to pull it towards me and turn towards it. So this is the turn. The turn is just the spirit becoming interested. So one turn reaches me out, and then the other turn brings me round to inspect what it is I've captured. So I reach forwards, I grab something, and then I turn towards it, and that pulls it in. And then just keep it going, but now feel it in the leg. So it's the same action as the hand, it's just the hand's going down to the leg. Because I want to feel myself, the return of the energy, having the energy's gone out, the return is just me interested in that foot or getting into that foot. And it's a change in mood that makes the boomerang change direction and start returning. That something in my mind beckons it. Let's just stand. Really, all the difficulties, the complications, stem from the fact that, you know, as creatures, as animals, we have to do two things. We have to feed, and we have to make sure that we're not fed upon. So one, the feeding requires me to go out, gather things in, and then have a feast. But as I'm feasting, I have to be vigilant so that I'm not in any danger. So every now and then I need to look up around. And so everything, in a sense, everything is fraught with an anxiety that stems from this need to be constantly switching between these two minds. And it's just part of being a living creature. Everything has it. But it does cause problems, largely because each mind has a slightly different posture. So the mind that reaches out to bring in is very much this mind that's sort of swelling from the back, from between my shoulders, from my sacrum, from the back of the head. So basically ward off, riding horse. So that's reaching out and gathering in. Now, in order to look out, you see the best example really for me is a squirrel. You know, they scurry around on all fours looking for acorns or whatever. And then when they find one, they sit up and then they can see. So they become vertical. They've been roaming around the horizontal or through the trees. And then in order to see the bigger picture, they become vertical. So that's what we need. So the vertical spine in Tai Chi, this feeling of the sacrum coming forwards and dropping down so that the heart can lift up and out. That's the mind that is sort of scanning the horizon. That's what we tend to have lost. I mean, in a sense, you could say that all of the problems of the human race stem from the fact that we don't see the bigger picture. We're not really aware of the consequences of our actions, the long-term consequences. So this is just so important, just to be able to settle down here and then just away. It's like you're the center of the world. So the problem is that the mind that is drawing the world in order to consume it tends to do this. It tends to bring me onto all fours. And the other mind requires me to almost feel like I'm falling backwards so that the heart can lift. So I somehow have to juggle those two. This thing of this down and this up, it's very much the knees rolling out like this. So if you think of the other one, the gathering, that the ward off is very much swelling from here and then coming around like this. And that will tend to pull my bum back a little bit and make me lean forwards, which is fine. Just need to balance it with the other. So this one is much more like my thighs are rolling, my knees are rolling out, and that is pulling my sacrum down and forwards a little bit. So I want to make sure that I get into the posture I want, which is really not, it's not really to do with the body, it's more to do with just configuring and aligning these energy points. So this, and this. I want to make sure I get it because I've done something active with my legs rather than simply because I've pushed myself into the right posture. So it's very much a dynamic, soft thing. So I'm just feeling the knees rolling out like this. It's just the opposite of this. Yeah, so it's the ward off, the yield and the attack. So this feeling here. So this is pulling down. If I don't get a sense of the legs trying to pull this downwards, then they'll do the opposite. They'll be pushing it up and back. So I want this feeling that the legs are rolling. So if you think I'm trying to roll my knees out like that, now they're not going to move very much. And so the main action is basically squeezing the sacrum as I'm pulling it down. So dancers talk about this a lot. So it's like a real openness around the whole hip joint. Looks good. Okay, so let's try just so backwards and forwards and feeling it as you come into the foot, whether it's a front foot or a back foot, we're yielding. Yeah, so the side that we're coming into is bending and filling so that the other side can empty and express the energy. So what I want to do is feel the yield. You know, when we used to do pushing hands, as we turned, we would turn the hand over like this, wouldn't we? So the hand's sort of looking up. So just feel that as I come into the front foot, I'm yielding, I'm twisting the arm, and I can feel that that is assisting this roll of the thigh. And then this one. So it's just these folds here, almost like I could take my leg off. So the thigh is rolling, the knee is trying to go out. The knee's always trying to escape. This thigh is rolling this way, so the knee is trying to slip back like that. And that is really pulling down here. The legs hurt a lot more than we're used to when you do this, but you just feel connected to the ground. The wonderful thing about the correct posture, that basically, what we used to call the vertical spine, but it's a bit more complicated than that. This sense that the opening of the legs is pulling this down. If we get that, then this is just totally free. And the upper body is just so light and it just sees the world with real clarity. But the legs have to really do all the work then, so that the upper body can just be clear and relaxed. And let the hand that's yielded really cut into this fold here to sort of accentuate the fold. I want that joint to be so open, it's almost like the hand could disappear into it. This is so important because it's the only way really to free up the mind. Otherwise, the mind is too involved in what we're doing. I want this vigilant mind that can just see everything. And so for that, the legs really have to just take care of everything so that I can be looking out. And it's not just the eyes, it's the heart. The heart is light, almost like you've become a little bit breathless. So when you're doing partner work, especially something like the Dalu or the dance where you're moving around, then you have to have this. Otherwise, you just become like a burden, like a heavy thing that's clinging to the other person. Like this sort of carefree mind that can then just be really interested and compassionate, not in a lovey-dovey way, but just in a really attentive way. So let's try again with the other side. So just get it going first before you start worrying about how to do it right. My legs are they're really trying to cling to the ground and just constantly pull the sacrum down. It's like I want the heart to be so light and buoyant, it's almost taking me up. And so my legs have to cling to the ground to stop me from taking off. So again, it's this fold here, the knee staying out. So even when I reach forwards and have my weight in the back bar, I don't want this leg to collapse in. It's always trying to escape. And then you're just there, you're just between your legs and you're low. This is down and then this is up. This is the vertical back. So it's not a position we just push ourselves into ignorantly. It's all to do with the balance of levity and gravity. It's that that enables us to see the bigger picture. So as I come into the front foot, there's a sense of something rising and buoying this heart upwards. Every time I move into a leg, as I sink into the leg, something comes up and the heart lifts even more. And then let's just stand in push posture. So this feeling that, the sacrum is just digging right down. And this is just light. Just feel how difficult it is on the legs. Okay. Come back to riding horse. And now let's try the normal one we do with the mouth opening here to grab the ground. Let's go down. So this feeling that this is separating. The legs are bending, I'm going down and biting off a chunk of the ground. So the knees, again, my knees go out. And then I just straighten the legs to pull up. And I want to feel the spirit. So it's like, something has to really fire up to open these points at the back, the sacrum between the shoulder blades and the back of the head. and then back into riding horse. And now feeling the vertical. So just rolling the knees. This pulls forwards and down, and this can just lift. Your eyes can look into the distance. You're no longer feeding on the ground. You're now gazing to infinity. So that's basically yield and attack. So the beginning of the posture is gathering someone in, and then the end of the posture is throwing them out by retrieving this vertical spine, retrieving the connection between heaven and earth. So the form is real hard work if you do it right, because you're switching all the time in these different minds. Okay, let's bring it off. Let's try just a little bit of this. Just letting it turn you a little. And just trying to get real looseness, especially in the hips here. The groin almost feels like your hip bones are sort of wobbling. You want real mobility. Nitzan used to talk about it, when you're standing in a posture, Tai Chi posture, stationary, then the pelvis should feel like it's floating, because all the bones coming into it are not quite touching it. There's openness in all of those joints. So this pelvis has like real fluid potential. It's such an important part of the body, this. And then let's just try lifting the leg. So coming into the foot by circling around it, like we're doing the figure of 8 with the weight. And then just lift the other leg. If you rest the foot on the knee, the inside of the knee, it will help keep you in the outside edge. And just relaxing all the time, trying to expand across the sacrum. And then stepping out, a big step, and then circling. Feel the hip bone. We just want to become really aware of the sacrum and the hip bones. And then stepping. We just look at it. Yeah, so when I bring my weight into the foot, it all tends to get a bit tight and tense. And I can feel that in my mind. I can feel my mind similarly becoming a bit anxious. So here, when we step, we just want to really make sure that we're sinking all the way. The more you can sink in the full leg, the more you'll be able to extend the other leg out. So you'll be able to get these long Chinese steps round. So here, as I come round the foot, I'm trying to make this big loop, and that will just help me just stay relaxed as I bring the weight into it, not get anxious. So anxiety is really just the mind pulling into itself, disconnecting and getting tight. So if I want to counter that, I just really have to stay connected. I stay connected and I just visualize this really big loop. And now I've got to step. And so I need to sink this leg, bend the leg, bend the leg, bend the leg, bend the leg. Ooh. And that is difficult. So it's not just bending the leg, it's also opening these joints in the hips and the sacroiliac. But if you don't bend the leg, then if you're not bending the leg, you'll be straightening it. So in the mind, at least, you just have to I have to keep sinking down here. Sinking, sinking, sinking. And then the empty leg can start to fill without getting tight. And again, I stay in this leg. If anything, I'm moving that direction to balance the weight of the leg, which is extending out. And I just, so I sink to extend the leg out. I sink to place the toe on the ground, and then I have to sink even more to get the whole foot on the ground with this loop. So it's sinking all the way, really. But each element of that sinking has a slightly different mindset. So I'm extending out. I place the toe. It's like, ooh, dry land. And then something in me just, oh, I relax. And the energy will naturally loop around if you let it. You just relax and let go. This is what we want. Yeah, everything that we're trying to do would happen naturally if we were just more relaxed. We're not trying to do anything that's artificial, that's designed. It seems that we are. But this is just the way of it. You know, the teacher tells you what would happen if you were a little bit more relaxed. So you try doing that, and that will just help you relax. So I extend the foot out and ooh. They're just struggling all the time just to get closer to the ground, really. That's all it is. And then if you're just really happy with that, if you're really happy just being close to the ground, then this will lift. The lifting heart, it's not something that you just manufacture. It's just an aspect of your cheerfulness. So I have to be able to endure the pain in the legs, cut off from it even, so that this can just be free and light. the legs coming out from the sacrum and down, the arms coming out from the middle of the back, down into the hands, the eyes or these tentacles coming out of the back of the head. So that's my energy coming out in order to claim the space in front of me or the objects within that space. And then when I just roll the legs the other way, rather than this way, rather than swelling here and getting the knees to encircle somewhere, I'm now getting the knees to try and do this. That will bring this down and forwards, and this can lift. So it's just balancing the two. So we don't want to do too much of this. Otherwise, it'll be just too difficult to get back into the vertical back. Okay, so let's bring the feet up. The big toes touching and the heels out. So this is almost burrowing down. And then this can just lift up. So this is meditation. So heaven and earth. That picture that I put on the reminder, the snake, that sort of earth formation in America. They know now that that was sort of constructed like 13,000 years ago, so before the Ice Age, it actually, whilst there was still ice in North America. The same sort of mind that built Stonehenge, where they're building something on the earth that mirrors something that's in the sky. So that snake is just a mirror of a constellation in the stars. So they were constantly trying to just align heaven and earth so that there could be some sort of conduit, some sort of energy flow. And that, of course, we've completely lost any sense of, we've lost the energetic universe, really. So we don't feel anything anymore, we just observe.